Games don't have to be good to be worth mentioning. Welcome to Tabletop Shop.
Hello and welcome back to the Tabletop Shop podcast. Today we're talking about some games we may or may not like, and we still have no idea what our game of the week is. I'm one of your co-hosts, Nate Clark, and as always, seated across the country from me is your other co-host, Mr. Cody Pennington.
The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game 2025. How do you feel about that?
I haven't looked into it too much, actually, but I know it's cooperative, which...
Enough of these cooperative trick-taking games, man. They keep doing this.
I don't know how many there are. I'm sure there are quite a few that I'm not aware of. Like, obviously, The Crew overshadows anything else that has come out.
There was one I was just looking at on Game Nerds. I forget what it is now, but it's another one of like the smaller ones that has a similar concept.
Well, there's For Northwood, which is a solo trick-taking game, which you thought they could never do it. They did it. I feel like nowadays, like, the designing challenge is just like
solo
take
trick.
two
Wait,
things
how does this
that
work?
should it's like take two things that nobody's done because it shouldn't be possible, and just make it work. And then people will buy it. You know?
Like a solo storytelling game. Be your own DM. You just kind of sit there
a
by
book.
yourself like, and then I go and do this. But wait, what a surprise. I'm going to have this guy show up.
I don't know. It's just funny because I'm just thinking, like, remember when Arnak and Dune Imperium came out and we're like, ooh, cool, worker placement and deck building. Like, all right, cool, nice combo. We're like way past the point. We're doing extreme things like solitaire trick taking, you know, just combining things that just, So that's funny.
Yeah. The industry is dead.
I'm assuming you're redefining what trick taking means in this game too. It can't just be trick taking, right? Because then that doesn't work. So
I don't know. Maybe we need to get For Northwood and give it a try, dude.
It also looks like a children's storytime book, so I'm gonna pass.
Hey, you know what? It's rank 602. So what more do you want? Come on.
That's pretty good.
Designer William Sue, artist William Sue. So do that.
He's a real Ryan Lockett, that guy.
Yeah.
Cody, intro question for you.
Okay.
What is a game that you have owned, but you never played and you got rid of it? You can pick any, you can pick multiple. Just what comes to mind that fits into that category.
Root definitely comes to mind.
You never played Root, really?
Well, see, I played Root with you at the point that you owned it, but then I like traded you for it, and then I never ended up playing it. So that's one.
Right. Yeah.
Legends of Andor, same situation. I'm trying to think one though that I like never actually played. I don't know how that would apply.
Yeah, because both of those you played before.
Like, why would I get a game and then just never play it? Yeah, I don't know if I have one. Maybe I'll think of one later. But has that happened to you? Well, you've like bought games in order to resell them, so I feel like that doesn't count.
Well, no, that doesn't count. I bought Pandemic Fall of Rome for 50 cents at a thrift store, and I wanted to play it, actually, even though I don't like Pandemic. But the theme was really cool, and there were obviously some changes to the game, and I wanted to, but I never did.
And for 50 cents, like...
And I sold it for like $15, too, so...
Dang, that's some good profit margin right there, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would probably be my number one for that. Also, in the news, you mentioned Lord of the Rings trick-taking.
Yeah.
Not that news is a thing, but a Welcome to Night Vale RPG was announced recently. which, if you think about it, is actually a no-brainer. Like, that's like a perfect world for like just an insane RPG.
Yeah.
Right? It's not on Board Game Geek. Which I don't know if a lot of RPGs are. I would assume. I don't know if like just straight RPGs are on Board Game Geek. Actually, I'm not sure. But it's not. It also hasn't been like it's kickstarting soon, or by the time this comes out, it's probably the Kickstarter's active. Would be my assumption.
I know there is a Lord of the Rings one that came out recently, and a little bit before that, there was an Avatar one, like Last Airbender. So
Yeah.
just kind of keep spreading the joy for these cool thematic RPGs.
Well, what's interesting is that this Night Vale one is being produced by Renegade Game Studios, which does Garfield games, don't they?
Yeah, you're right.
So that I found interesting.
When do you think we'll see an Everdell RPG? Because that would be pretty lit.
Well, I don't think we'll see Everdell per se, but we'll see something in whatever that... I guess the world is Everdell, but is the world Everdell, or does the world have a name?
No. I think it's Everdell. I mean, there might be like a name for the realm or something. It does have a bit of lore behind it.
For sure. Cody, did you play anything new that's worth mentioning?
I don't think so. I didn't write anything down. Did I?
I'll let you think about it. I did finally acquire Hadrian's Wall, and I was able to table it a couple of times.
Ooh, how'd that go?
This is exactly what I was expecting.
In a good way?
In a good way.
Okay.
And which, to be fair, I did a lot of research on this one before I purchased it, because I was purchasing it, even though it's a multiplayer game, it's essentially a multiplayer solo game, like maybe the most multiplayer solo game in existence.
Okay.
And that's what I was interested in doing. It was just soloing it for that reason. But it is very much Three Sisters, but on steroids. The theme doesn't come through quite as well as it does in Three Sisters. I feel like what you're doing in Three Sisters feels a little bit more thematic with all your fruits and your growing and stuff like that. But yeah, Hadrian's Wall is like a big, insane flip and right, which it's not even really a flip and right. Like there's 6 rounds, and at the beginning of a round, you flip a card that says, here's the resources you get for this round. Plus you can get some other resources off a couple different like production things. And then you're just maximizing those. And you just sit down, head down for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and you just maximize in that round until all your resources are gone. And then you go to the next year, basically.
Okay.
So it's not a traditional flip and light, like, okay, flip this card, draw, flip this card, draw. It's just like, here's your allotment of resources for the round. Use them as best as you can. And it's just like track heaven, right? It's just like all sorts of different types of tracks, all these sorts of like integrated bonuses and all this kind of stuff. So it's really fantastic. To anybody that enjoys Three Sisters for that reason, I would highly recommend this. But just know that I don't think it's really a multiplayer game, because there's literally almost no player interaction whatsoever. It's just everybody doing that next to each other at the table, right? So it's literally a solo game. It just pretends to play multiple people. So.
Yeah. And I know you like wrecking other people's lives when you play games, so I get
Listen, I want some interaction, you know? It's
Sure.
like, if I'm going to play a game with other people, and it literally is just like, it's not even like we're using a shared board. It's like, here's your resources, heads down. The only thing you might do is like give somebody a resource for something that's on one of their cards, right? That's like it. So yeah, I have been looking into the Anarchy though, which is his next game that builds on this. It seems like it's got a little bit more player interaction, and it's even more insane than this one. So that one looks pretty good. Kickstarter is live right now. Maybe it's ended by the time this posts, but
You know, someday, Nate, I will actually kickstart a Garfield game, because they have one like every 6 months.
Scarborough is also live right now.
Yeah, that's right. That one looks kind of fun. I haven't really looked at the gameplay.
It looks fun, but it's really short. Do you see the playtime on it is like, I want to say it was 45 minutes.
Dude, a Garfield game that like does not take 8 hours to play? That'd be interesting.
I mean, Garfield games aren't like, I mean, they're average length for Euros.
Sure.
But the Scarborough, I think, maybe it's 60 minutes or something. It's definitely low.
Saying 45 to 60 playtime.
Yeah.
2.67 weight rating. But, I mean, what is... Probably Architects is like the lightest. Well, I'd say Raiders of the North Sea might be lighter. What do you think?
It's definitely one of those two. I don't know about the other North Sea games.
Yeah, I would assume the others are even lighter than that. This is saying Architects is voted a 2.76. Raiders of the North Sea is voted, 2.56. So it's pretty chill.
But that makes a 3.67. Like, that's got to be... Is that what it is, 3.67? That's got to be close-ish to, like, Wayfarers.
No, I said 2.67 for
2.67. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big difference in the weight scale.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Cody, without further ado, I guess we should head on to our mystery game of the week.
Do it.
All right, so for those of you who don't know how this works, we don't really either. Basically, Cody just randomly generates some letters and numbers, and then I use that to select a game from the search engine in Board Game Geek, and then we talk about it.
I forgot that I'm supposed to generate a number too, so I'm going to do that right now. I think we did a D20 last time, but that's too many options, so we're going to do D12. I do have some letters for you, though. Your letters, Nate, are D and R, so I bet we're going to have a bunch of doctor games. And the D12 being rolled is 3.
All right, Cody. Oh, all right, okay. I need you to type in Dr. Shark.
It is clicked upon.
This will be interesting. So this is from 2011, ranked 9,594.
Okay.
However, designed by Antoine Bauza and Bruno Catala.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What a combo, dude.
What? I didn't know they'd done another game together.
I didn't either. We got some Seven Wonders Duel action going here.
Absolutely. But this is way before. This is from 2011.
In Duel
Whereas
is like
Seven Wonders Duel, I wanna say,
2017.
Yeah, 17, 19, maybe even 19. I'm not sure.
19?
15. I don't know. It's definitely before.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So just barely clocked in at under the 10,000 mark. So
it is, however, ranked pretty low. Like, so it's like barely in the top 10,000, and it's got an average rating of 6.1,
yeah,
which is pretty low.
It's a little sad. I'm gonna click on the ratings now. Let's see.
How about this? How about this, Cody? You look at the 10 or the lowest, or sorry, you look at the highest. I'll look at the lowest, and we'll go back and forth on a couple of them. All right.
Do you want to start with high or low?
I'll start with low here. Dr. Shark is nonsensical in its theme of being a secret agent attending a party hosted by Dr. Shark. Then, do dumb down the theme more. There is the shark puppet to nag the players on, ? The basic game mechanics is based on a blind pick-and-pull randomization of tokens out of a bag. This represents player options in gaming? No. I don't understand that. Right, it's a 2. I didn't understand. I give his comment a 2 because I don't even know what he's saying.
Well, here's the thing.
Give us a 10 or a 9.
I'm reading the one thing written down under a 10, and I'm already, just by looking at the game, I'm assuming the 2 is more accurate from what you read. Number 10, written by reviewer Mommy Shark, says, simply the best game ever. Grab the right pieces and don't get eaten by the shark. He.
He.
Yeah. Heehee. But then Speed Metal also gave it a 10, but he didn't say anything about it.
Okay, here's the 3. This is a stinker. Theme and art are vaguely appealing, but the gameplay is dire. Pick some tiles with different textures out of different textures. Pick some tiles with different textures. That means that you would know you could pick what you wanted.
By how
so what's the point of pulling them out of a bag if they have different textures? Out of a bag in one of a handful of dull ways, then try to complete a series of little jigsaws for points. I was wishing this one away long before the end, and if we hadn't played this with a stranger, we would have walked away long before the end. All right.
Okay.
It's a little disappointing. I mean, the game looks kind of weird. It's got this kind of a spy look to it, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just kind of looking at the components here, you've got this typical, I don't know, maybe Clue. Maybe it's kind of like a Clue vibe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, just like artistic style, you mean?
Yeah.
It is sort of, like very flat, cartoony, kind of. You can play as Ursula, Austin, Wesley, Bianca, Yuri, and Yoko.
Yuri.
Got a very diverse cast there. It does have an interesting little wooden shark head piece. I'm willing to bet that is I was going to say is the first player token. This is saying the large shark clicker. Use the shark clicker for, Nate.
Oh, the big gray thing?
That thing is huge. It's like the size of the palm of your hand. Yeah.
If it actually makes a clicking noise, maybe it's to increase the pressure on someone.
Maybe.
Just do it right in your face.
Or it's how you signify the beginning and the end of the game. Like everyone gathers around, you're like, wait. Click. It's kind of like
a
gong.
ceremonial shark clicking.
Yeah. I would give this game a try, but I would have very low expectations.
I guess I have low expectations because it's ranked lowly and it's rated lowly. I would definitely give it a try if only because it's Bauza and Catala, though. Mm-hmm. Right? So
Isn't this weird about some of these designers who produce like 10,000 games? Like, they certainly have some quality games that get put out there. But then it seems like they have 70% of the other games are just wacko little games like this. And it makes you wonder, are they really good designers, or do they just kind of get lucky every now and then, you know?
Well, I've thought that I have thought that before about Antoine Bauza. However, just looking at his portfolio, you got Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel, of course. Takanoko, also him. Ghost Stories, I know it was really popular. Hanabi, Tokaido. He's got a handful of games that actually are very well respected. So I always kind of viewed him as a one-hit wonder, but I guess that's because I wasn't really familiar with all the stuff he's done. Even though I knew of the games, I'd forgotten they were his games, basically.
But then it looks like he has 6 pages of games that are basically rank 5,000 and below. or 5,000 and worse, if you will.
So kind of what you're saying is, are these great designers really just like getting there because they've produced so much that something's going to rise to the top? I don't know if I agree with that, especially because you have to say something like Seven Wonders Duel, for example, is a fantastic concept. Like, this isn't a lucky design. This isn't like just crank out those games till something works, right?
It's not like you put monkeys at a typewriter and they produce something like that. No, certainly not.
Exactly.
Like, it actually does require skill. And I take it back because the way BGG organizes things is they count every single expansion card as an entry, so then it doesn't have
the
a
promos
rank.
And
So it looks like he only has like 1 page of games that is 5,000 and worse. But that includes Witty Pong, rank 23,636. What is Witty Pong? Also designed by Bruno Catala and Antoine Bauza.
Witty Pong.
As far back as 2005, Antoine Bauza was trying to encapsulate the essence of ping pong in a board or card game. Ah, yeah.
I'm guessing Pingo Pongo. Pingo Pingo. Oh, no, that's not Pingo Pongo. It's Pingo Pingo. Never mind, disregard. That's a game about pirate penguins? What's the segment?
What is going on, dude? What are you saying?
I'm just reading about Pingo Pingo.
I forget. Did we have some tradition that we very quickly established last time for what we say about the game of the week? Do we just say we'd play it or not?
That was kind of what we did, and we both kind of already said that, like, definitely not expecting good things, but I would definitely give it a shot, though.
But would you give Witty Pong a shot?
Is it woody or witty?
Witty Pong.
Oh, I'll give Witty Pong a shot.
It has basically no pictures. It has like 3 pictures. So I don't understand what you do in it.
Well, thanks, Cody.
Yeah, welcome.
I guess we better move on. Better move on to our list.
All right, list time. Oh, and dear listeners, I guess we did not explain, you're not going to see an RPG in this episode. We tried it last time, and we will continue that RPG, but we have decided to split it into 2 separate episode thingies. So we will give you a normal episode, still coming out. Well, no, coming out once a month, basically, but on a still release schedule of every other week. Something will come out, but it's going to alternate now with an RPG segment. So those of you who enjoy RPGs, you can just sit down, enjoy the story. It will be, maybe Nate will make it a playlist so you can just like go right through all of them and have some fun.
I mean, we did this in the past, Cody, so are we essentially just reviving the Dice Cast now?
I guess we are reviving the Dice Cast,
that's what it was, man.
That's pretty dope. All right,
Dice Cast is back,
Dice Cast
baby.
is back. Did we have music for the Dice Cast? I don't remember. I'd have to go back and
I don't know.
listen.
You'll have to send me the logo and all that stuff. We'll get it taken care of. But the Dice Cast is officially, as of literally right now, back.
We are so back. After probably 18 months.
And let's get on to our list.
All right. We don't have any music,
Okay.
so awkward pause.
No awkward pause. This is what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to do this right after we did our top 25s. I guess this is only 2 episodes after, so it's not that big of a deal. But we're going to be talking about our top 3 games that are not in our top 100 games of all time. Mm-hmm. So basically our 101 through 103.
Oh, is that how you did it?
Well, what do you mean?
I did not go 101, 102, 103. I picked like 3 games that I thought were worthy of mentioning that weren't in my top 100.
But then that makes those games kind of your 101, 102, and 103, doesn't it?
That's true. So
what are you saying?
How did I end up? Like, my number 3 is rank 111. So let me go look at my list and see how this happened.
Wait, so where did you get the games from that you picked? Like, what did you use as a point of reference to?
It was my top 100 list. Maybe this, I don't know, maybe these should become my 101, 102, and 103. Maybe this is just like unrefined, like the last.
Wait, let me get
games
this
that drop
straight.
off
So
the
your
list.
top 100 list goes past top 100
Yep.
to whatever.
Yep.
But you didn't, for the top 3 games that aren't in our top 100, you didn't just pick your 101, 102, 103. You picked other games?
Nah. Yeah.
How does that make any sense, Cody?
I don't know, dude, but it does.
Okay, so you can do one of two things here. You can either retroactively move those games up to 101, 102, 103 in your list, or you can ignore them and you can just take your actual 101, 102, and 103 and talk about those. I guess you can do either one of those things.
Or option 3, I leave this in limbo and I keep the list I have and I keep the audience guessing if this is ever going to change or not. Ooh.
Not that they would probably ever know. Ooh. Like, we're never going to do a top 100. Will we ever do a top 100? Maybe we'll do that next year. We'll do it over like 4 or 5, maybe 5
how
episodes.
About
that'd be ridiculous.
Episode 100, we do our top 100. How's that?
We did talk about that as kind of a joke, and I think that's what it has to be, because there's no way we would do 100 games. That would be like a 24-hour live stream. Like, no way.
Dude, I mean, we might as well. Like, hey, if we hit 100 episodes and we still have 11 people listening, like, they might stick around for the live stream.
Honestly, Cody, I'm committing to this right now. If we get to 100 episodes on the Tabletop Shop podcast,
right. Okay,
which is now going to be more difficult because we're only it's going to be years. If we're only releasing one a month now, this is going to be a long time in the future.
That's the point. That's the point.
We will live stream. We'll do a video. We will live stream, and we will do our top 100 games.
All right.
And we will hate ourselves so much for
Here's
it.
the thing. I'm not committing to doing it for 24 hours. I will commit to doing as long as it takes to do the top 100, though.
Yes, yeah, that's what I meant. No, not a 24-hour live stream. We just have to play. It would just turn into live plays after that. Oh, that could be fun, though, Cody. We could do live plays, and then, like, in between each game, do another, like, 15 games on our list or 20 games on our list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, let's not do that. That's way too much. But, okay. But the top 100 live stream, I'll do it if we ever hit 100 episodes.
Good try, dude.
Weren't we doing? What is this segment? Aren't we doing a list?
Yeah, top games, top 3 games, not in our top 100, which is not limited
Cody,
to your 101, 102, and 103 because that's lame. I actually made decisions.
I was just gonna ask if you know what's in your list, which is not a game I normally feel like I have to ask you, but do you consider these games, if you know what they are, to be good or bad? Like, I feel like this is kind of a silly question because, like, I feel like maybe most people have played a lot of games. People that are really into the hobby have played a lot of games, and even games that aren't in their top 100, they would still consider good. Mm-hmm. Do you consider the ones that are not in your top 100 to be good games?
I do consider them to be good games. I do. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that you can go past my top 100 now, finally, and I can still be like, you know what? That's a pretty good game.
I'd play it, right?
Yeah.
You definitely still play it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I would definitely all of mine are good picks for sure still.
Well, we'll see.
Not good picks. Like, I can't really say that about my own list, but.
Yeah, see, I actually picked my list. I know it's nonsensical, but at least I made a decision.
I mean, mine, like, no, we're talking too much about the fine details of our list. Let's just do it.
Let's
Cody.
do it. Yeah, man.
I'll go ahead and go first.
All right. You kind of set me up for something there, and then you took it, but that's all right.
My number 3, I don't know if I've ever mentioned on the podcast before, actually, because I played it very recently, maybe even recently enough that it was just last episode where we decided, hey, we're only going to spotlight one game per episode instead of everything we've played. Mm-hmm. So I have not yet talked, I think, about a game called Comic Hunters. Have you heard of this?
Comet Hunters?
Comic, as in comic books.
Comic Hunters, okay.
So this is a game from 2020 themed about collecting comic books, basically.
Hey.
And so, believe it or not, the game is a set collection game, which would be really kind of weird if it wasn't, actually. Yeah. But it's also a card drafting game where you go through different phases of card drafting. So you'll do one that's like typical Seven Wonders style, pick and pass. But then you'll do one that's like, here's a big grid of cards and there's one empty space. So you slide a card somewhere within the, like you slide one card and then you pick all of one certain type of card in a row or column and take them. And then the next person goes, but now they have more room to work with as far as which card they slide because there's less cards in the grid. So that's one of the other ways you can draft. And then there's a couple other ways. There's an auction way and a push your luck way. So there's a handful of different ways that you're drafting cards, and you kind of keep going in rounds of drafting them. You're adding these comic books literally to your hand, and then kind of just using them to pay for other ones that are in your hand. They're not multi-use cards. They're multi-use cards in the way that like Race for the Galaxy is, where it's like, this is a level 3 card. So it can be really good, or you can use it as 3 currency to actually keep one of the other cards in your hand. So yeah, it's basically just set collection, got some competitive scoring in it over some goals and stuff. I don't love it. I've played it a couple times. I find it to be a little bit stressful, where you're really just kind of like trying to maximize your symbols, basically. Also, I find while the game looks nice, they really focused on the art of the original comic book issues, which I love, except it makes kind of dissecting you can't just like glance at a card and know. I feel like you really have to like kind of not study, but it's harder to just glance at the cards and know what their symbols are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
Give and take on that.
All right. That is a game that I've never heard of before, so thank you for enlightening me. But I'm going to give you a game that you've played before, because I think we played it before. So if I'm wrong, then I'm very confused. This is a game that apparently has stood the test of time, because it was published in 2009, and yet remains rank 189. So actually not far off, relatively, from, where it is on my list. Because this, I know it doesn't make any sense, but my number 3 is rank 111 on my list. This is Jaipur.
Jaipur.
We've played Jaipur, right?
We did. It was a very forgettable game for me.
Okay, well, I'm going to level with you. I don't super well remember how to play it. I do still own it. It is in my collection. I am waiting for Bruno Catala to come out and team up on this, so we get a 2-player version, which would be interesting. That's a joke. This is a 2-player game, Nate.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that would still be funny if they did that, though, and like people were just like, "Oh, what? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, Jaipur Duel."
Well, I know. I saw somebody made a post about this recently on Board Game Geek. Like, I don't know what kind of post it is necessarily. I don't know. Somebody made a post about this recently on Board Game Geek where they were like, now announcing the Duel version, like making a joke about all the Duel games that have been coming out recently, which I totally agree with. I feel like it's becoming oversaturated.
Well, let me throw something at you, which is The Fox in the Forest. I just bought this on eBay, but while I was looking it up, I saw there was Fox in the Forest Duet. I was like, wait, Fox in the Forest is...
It's a cooperative, right?
It's a 2-player game. Yeah, so it's Duet, but it's cooperative game, so it's just kind of...
Because the original Fox in the Forest is a 2-player trick taking.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, published by Renegade Game Studios. I didn't know that. Renegade does good stuff, man.
Apparently they do everything.
Yeah. But what they didn't do is Jaipur. So Jaipur, the basic idea, again, which is rough because it's been a long time since I played it, is there is a deck of goods cards that are going to be green, red, silver, purple, I think there's brown, gold, those different colors. Each of them have different rarities and number of cards that are even in the deck. And each one, like green represents, I think, like spices, and it has that artwork on the cards. The blue, white ones are like silver work.
It's very thematic.
It's, super thematic. So you have a hand of cards, the other person has a hand of cards, and then there's like this row of cards in the middle, which is like the goods row or the trading row. And so on your turn, you can either like take a single card, I think, from the row, or you can swap out cards from your hand to take like the same type of card. Then there's this whole camel system where the camels just kind of show up. You can't sell them. They just are this like constant back and forth trade mechanic in the game. But as you can eventually sell cards from your hand. And when you do that, for whatever number of cards you sell, you take that many victory point chips. And there's only a certain amount of victory point chips for each color. And you have to start with I think the higher end victory points of those chips. So everyone's competing to try to race to get the best chips of each color first by selling as many cards from your hand as you can of the same color. And then there's some incentive to where if you can get like 3 or 4 or 5 matching colored cards from your hand and you sell all of those, the more you sell at one time, you get other little bonuses that reward you for saving up and doing big purchases. So that is the basic mechanic of the game. Then at the end of a given round, whoever got the most accumulative points from that round gets like a little one-sided disc thingy that indicates that you won the round, and then you just do best 2 of 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I like that very much.
Oh yeah, what don't you like about it?
The best 2 out of 3 thing, I feel like I don't like that much.
Sure. Would you rather do like accumulative points or something?
Yeah, I mean, not every game has to be points based, but I feel like best 2 out of 3 feels kind of cheap. You know, It's not a race game. It's not a points-based game. It's like somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I don't love it. I would rather have a game that's... I don't know. I would rather have a game that is just points-based. Whoever scores the most wins. And then you could just, if it's a short game, do best 2 out of 3 with the game, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. And yeah, I mean, it does feel maybe a little bit anticlimactic once you get to the end. Because you could have, you could have barely lost the first round by like a difference of 2 points or something, and maybe that happens for the second round too, but then you absolutely demolish them for the third one. It's like total you would have gotten more points, but you still lost the total number of games. So I was like, yeah. But anyway, that's Jaipur. I'm not going to get rid of it. It's a nice little box.
I think the game looks nice. It's kind of a non-theme in that the theme doesn't affect the game at all. You know, like you could put pretty much anything on it, but I think it looks fine. And I just didn't enjoy it that much. So
cool.
My number 2 is a Reiner Knizia design, something I only played once, quite a while ago, actually. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. Anna did not enjoy it as much, so we didn't play it again. This is Blue Lagoon. Blue Lagoon is a kind of network building, kind of area control game where you're placing a bunch of tokens out on a board. And there's kind of like lots of little islands and then streams and rivers in between them. You're placing tokens out. There's 2 phases of the game. The first game, you place tokens out, and you're kind of trying to get settlements out in key positions. You're collecting resources, and you're kind of doing some area majority stuff. And then you score, and you take all of those pieces you placed off of the board, except the huts that you got out. You have to work a little harder to get the huts out, but they actually stay out. And then you repopulate the board with resources and stuff, and then you go again, but now you can only place pieces shooting off from those huts that you placed. So during the first half of the game, you have a lot more freedom with where you can place stuff, but it's really important to try and get those settlements into key locations for the second half of the game when everything's going to come off the board except those spots where you placed huts. And so despite that, there's lots of different ways to score. You can kind of trying to create a network of islands as well as area majority on specific islands. And then there's resources that can be used for scoring as well. So there's a lot of different facets to the game. But again, it's got this Knizia design, right? Where it's like there's really not that many rules, but the metagame is so strong in it. And there's so much nuance to it. He's just fantastic at that. And I feel like he really delivered again with Blue Lagoon. I've only played it once, and I only played it at 2 players. That's why it doesn't rank super high. I think, just as a game like this, it needs that player interaction, and it probably plays best at 3 or probably even 4 is best. So, Blue Lagoon by Reiner Knizia.
I'm going to level with you, man. I think I've basically played no Reiner Knizia games. I know it's heresy for me as a board gamer and a board game podcaster for this to be the case. I think... So you own either Lost Cities, the card game, or the board game?
The card game, the original.
The card game. Did you teach that to me?
I'm sure we played it once. I know for a fact, I say fact very, suspiciously.
Sure.
I think we played Shot and Totten together. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Okay.
Oh, is that Reiner Knizia?
That's Knizia, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I'm fine. I've played.
Because you play, that's all about you. You play all sorts of Knizias. I think I've probably played a solid, I'm just kind of glancing at his highest ranked games. I think I've played a solid 9 or 10 of them.
Wow, okay.
So
you are a true gamer then.
I mean, I haven't played Raw, which I really want to play. I have not played Through the Desert, also is another one I'd really like to try. But I've played quite a few of his games, and I love his designs, so.
I will say that the cover for Lost Cities, Lost Ruins of Arnak, totally ripped off.
Well, did they really, or is it just jungle exploration theme? It's hard to do jungle exploration theme without kind of accidentally even ripping off everything that precedes that. Anything Indiana Jones-esque, right? It's kind of hard.
But they both have the awkward lady in the background, like pointing while smiling.
Oh, you mean like like very specifically ripped off?
Yeah,
the
like
design.
no,
Okay.
you should look at the covers between Arnak and then Lost Cities, the card game.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying, I guess.
Just kind of in the
But
background.
like that's the whole
thing.
point. Like it's this jungle exploration. You're trying to discover something. So like there's stuff to point at, Cody. Otherwise the game's not fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you ever decide if you're going to get the Expedition Leaders expansion for Arnak?
I mean, someday. I've been prioritizing.
Like, do you play
everything.
Arnak still? I know you still own it, but do you like actually play it?
It's on rare occasion, but I mean, playing a game is like on rare occasion. So it's like that's not a knock against Arnak.
Okay.
I did just order. I have not received it yet, though. I just ordered the Weather expansion for Three Sisters because I'm not willing to wait like a year and a half for the big box to come out.
Okay.
It was only like $7 for the expansion, so it's pretty good.
Nonetheless, I am actually excited to hear what that does to the game. So you'll have to let me know like next episode or whatever.
All right, well, you got it.
This is like the longest top 3 we've ever done.
I know.
So many
I
tangents.
think we're just used to talking about other things. So we're trying to fit in more stuff. How about we jump to my number 2?
Let's do it.
Which jumps down a number. This is now would be rank 105 on my list. This was a game that I believe John, my brother, introduced me to. And then maybe I got it for you or something? Because then you ended up owning it, and then that's how we played it a little bit. And then it came back to me, and then I never played it, and then I sold it.
I'm so lost.
It's Legends
Where's
of
the game right now?
Andor, baby.
All
Legends of Andor. So did I buy this one for you back in the day?
You did. And this
Okay.
was like this was also one of those games that it wasn't super formulative, I think, in us getting into the hobby, but it was definitely like actual hobby gaming for either
It was
of us.
it was along the way. It was a little bit after Acrotiri, I believe.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, Legends of Andor is a very simplified little RPG system. It's not really even a role-playing game. It's more just like you control a piece on a board who can move around. You can collect weapons. You can collect runes for abilities. You can collect, like, you can put a shield on your character. You have health. There's other things. You can collect money and coins. But then the game is, you have to play a preset campaign. And I think there's like 5 missions basically that you can play that come with a somewhat randomized but somewhat in order like event deck that flips over and it walks you through a story. So it tells you how to move around the board, how to set it up. There's going to be the bad trolls and orcs that appear. It's like the very last mission has a dragon, and then there's like some other unique characters you can kind of acquire that are like NPCs that help you out in the game. And that's basically the whole game. It has kind of a cool action system where the game is divided into days, and a day is, I think it's like 7 hours long. And so your character has a certain amount of energy, so you can perform those 7 action or use 7 hours to do 7 things. I think like moving one space takes an hour, so you could spend a turn moving like 4 spaces, and that takes up 4 hours. But then there are like 3 additional hours that you can access by like paying, I don't remember what the resource is. It's some sort of like strength or energy mechanic that tires out your character, but you can do more things. So that's kind of cool that you're trying to accomplish as much as possible in order to beat the game before you run out of time and you get to the end of the deck, the event deck. So it's pretty cool. I do like the aesthetic of it. I like the artwork. It has a nice high fantasy theme. All that being said, it's pretty simplistic, but I feel like this is a good, kind of how it was for us. It was an entry level game. It introduced us to some more mechanics, some more ideas in the gaming sphere, and it's fun to be able to do a very basic little RPG adventure. Do you still own this one? No, because we traded for it, and then it was mine, and then I sold it.
Yeah. Well, I got rid of it because, so a couple things. I mean, for starters, I didn't love the game that much. It was nice, like the first few times we played it, but then you start to realize that it's essentially just like a big puzzle. Each, it's not really. It doesn't have any role playing elements to it. It doesn't really feel like an adventure kind of a game, even though it has that theme. And then as well, like the theme is like super generic. I mean, this is like we're pulling this straight out of Lord of the Rings and we're putting different faces on the people, right? You know, which is fine. But I think this was one of the first games, if not the first game I played that really used dice, right? Like I think it wasn't just rolling dice. I think you were actually rolling them and kind of using them too, if I remember correctly.
Depending on the character, you had access to different dice, and like, one of the characters could like flip a die over. Yeah, things like that.
Stuff like that. But one thing I really do appreciate about this game is that I played once with my brother and sister, and they really enjoyed it. I was kind of just like, all right, yeah, sure, let's play this. They had never played a game like that. They really enjoyed it, and that was the reason we ended up buying Gloomhaven. Actually, was because of Legends of Andor.
Wow, so you owe Gloomhaven to Andor. That's interesting.
I do, and by proxy to you. So, so even though shortly after, like, we never played Andor again, we got rid of it. We bought Gloomhaven, and then that was like, definitely worth it.
So I am the reason you had to spend like $120. Nice.
Basically, but it's also my number one of all time. So,
all right. Well, what's your number one of this list?
My number one of all time of this list is, I don't know if I've talked about this one yet either, although it's a game you've played and you didn't like it. It's a top 100 game on The Geek.
Oh, dang.
This is Simone Luciani's and what's the other guy? Virginio Gigli's Grand Austria Hotel.
Yeah.
That's basically how I felt about it. Now, this is the sort of game that I was like, I need to play it again to see if I enjoy it. I had the same experience with Carnegie, essentially, where it takes a full game to really figure out, because this game is very procedural, right? So the theme is that you have guests that are coming to your hotel. You have to feed the guests, and then you have to prepare a room for them and then send them to their room. That's kind of the cadence, and it's very procedural in that way, where it's like you're drafting guests, but then you're also preparing rooms. And so once you've fed the guest, then you can send them to a room, but only if you've already prepared the room, right? So you're doing all this kind of stuff. So to figure it out takes a game, right? To figure out the cadence and the flow.
Sure.
And so it's kind of the thing that I haven't played a second time, and if I did, it would probably rise higher, even though there's not a chance it would ever come close to Lorenzo, which is one of their other designs. But it's dice drafting, and then a little bit of card drafting, and just that, again, very procedural, thinking ahead quite a few steps, because you have to have everything kind of happening at the right time in order to really be efficient. So.
Yep, I did indeed buy this a while ago and played it, and it wasn't bad, but it was just kind of like, It was disappointing, though, because I thought this would be a really fun game, and Kirsten was excited about it, too, like the whole idea of you're trying to serve guests and keep them happy and get them the things they need, and then you get points for it. Like, that's a fun idea, but yeah, I just feel like the system didn't... I don't know. Putting colored cubes on top of people does not really scratch that itch, you know?
And let's be honest, the game doesn't look that fantastic either. I know a lot of people I'm assuming it's Clemens Franz. Yeah, it's Clemens Franz. I'm assuming a lot of people like his art. I am not one of those people, and that doesn't help the experience either. And I'm assuming that's the same for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral to neutral negative on it. I mean, the cover art kind of tells you all you need to know, I feel like.
It's basically, yeah. And again, if people like that, then they're going to like that, right? But for me, that's never very compelling.
So this is your 101 on your top hundo?
This is my 101, and it will only continue to drop unless I play it again.
All right. So, well, Nate, you're going to be proud of me, because my number one for this list is my 101 on my top 100. So it all
Grand
works
Austria
out.
Hotel?
Nope. It is a game that you were not particularly enthused by. I feel like that was your first impression, so I'm kind of curious to hear what you think of it more in retrospect. But this is Hanamikoji, which is the fairly famous I Split, You Choose game. I'm sure there's plenty of other games that do this, but I feel like this is the one you hear about referenced for that system. So Hanamikoji is a 2-player only game. It's very quick playing, and you can play like multiple games of it if you want. Basically, there are 7 geisha cards, and you are trying to win the favor of the majority of those geishas. So each geisha has a certain value, either from 2 to 5, And according to that value, they have that same number of cards in this collective deck that gets dealt out to each person. So you're basically trying to put down those cards on your side of the table next to each geisha. So you're trying to get the highest value, like point value of cards to get each geisha. And then the game can end in a few different ways. Whoever gets the majority of the geishas, so I think it's if you just get 4 of them, you win. Or, since some of them are harder to get because they have higher point values, you can just get 3 of them if you get a certain value. I think it's like 12 points worth. And that's basically the main focus of the game. How you do that is you have 4 little action tiles that you'll go through over the course of a round. You have to use each one of them exactly once, but you can decide when you want to use each one. And so the tiles are something like just play a card. And then some are like pick 3 cards from your hand and put one of them down and like let the other person look between the other 2. I forget how they work, but it's the I split you choose mechanic. So you're trying to figure out what cards based off of what you see already played the other person may pick, and you're trying to hope they don't pick the one you don't want them to pick so you can play the other 2 and so forth. So it's definitely a bit of a little mind game. You kind of have to do some deduction to figure out what cards are even left in the game. You have to do a little bit of math to figure out how you can potentially win over the remaining geishas. And that's the game. Hanamikoji. I have not played it in a while, so hopefully I didn't butcher the gameplay. But yeah.
From what I remember, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the game was very stressful, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
Because I don't know. I think maybe I love the idea of I split you choose, and I think I prefer games that have it in the game, but not as the game, right? Because I split you choose is pretty much the only thing in this game. That's what it's built around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like Isle of Skye, it's part of the game, but then you do other stuff, right? So that takes part of the, I don't know. For me, in this one, the stress level was too high. I felt like I was always making the wrong split, you know?
Sure.
Like I never felt like there was a good choice. I always felt like I was going to get screwed either way, you know, which is kind of part of the idea behind it. But I don't know. For me, it just didn't work as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't quite feel it to that extent, but I do agree a little bit. I think if this is a game where you can kind of master a system or a strategy or just a pattern of play, I could see this as being something that you pull out and then there's less stress in the decisions. You kind of just react a little bit more, make some educated guesses, and then maybe that becomes a fun, streamlined experience. But I've not gotten to that point.
It becomes more chess-like, right? Where if you have
Yes.
2 people that really understand the game,
Mm-hmm.
there's not this like, oh, what am I going to do? But it's just like, okay, you do this, I'm doing this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like, oh, you do that, okay, I have 2 different kind of strategies to pursue, you know? So I think you're right. I think it's that kind of thing is like once you learn the game, then it just becomes, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't want to say just trying to do better than the other person, but like.
It becomes a battle of wits.
It becomes a battle of wits. Yeah.
So yeah, Hanamikoji, and that is our top 3 of our top 3 games that are not in our top 100, that in some cases are not necessarily limited to rank 101, 102, 103.
Well, I don't know if all the games on your list were great, but I think mine were all pretty good. Like, I don't see myself ever owning Jaipur. Hanamikoji, maybe, you know, because the concept is more interesting. And your number 3, I don't remember. What was it? Mr. Shark? I can't remember.
No.
That's all that's in my head.
I will say that Grand Austria Hotel that you selected is number 86 on my top 100. So I enjoyed it.
Do you
more
really
than you.
feel like it deserves to be there? Like, can you honestly say, for example, that you enjoy Grand Austria Hotel more than Hanamikoji? You know?
I don't know, man. It's been a while since I played it. Intellectually, it seems like the superior game.
Yeah, and so that's part of the thing where I was like, Grand Austria Hotel, I was like, ooh, where's this going to be on my top hundo? And I was just kind of looking at all the games, and I was like, I like all of these more than Grand Austria Hotel. So it just kept moving down, down. You know, it's like I can't just put something higher because I respect it. Mm-hmm. And we've already talked about this. This is a top 3 we need to do in the near future. Like top 3 games that we respect but don't like. I really want to do that list because I think it'll be an interesting discussion.
Hey, we can do that next episode.
we could do that next episode. We'll see.
And remember, whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. Season 2, Episode 2. Nate, add some dope echo mechanics over this part.
Over what part? Over everything we're saying?
Season 2, Episode 2.
All right, I got you. I'll do that legendarily. I'll cut the music just for that, and then it'll come back in right now.
All right, thanks, right.